Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called A Nameless Prisoner, written by Redundant Fridge. Agreed's Supermax Prison Report. Current Warden Alsie lit minor. Current Deputy Warden of Operations Srinagar Orkeval. Current Deputy Warden Bracher Clue. Current Assistant Deputy Warden Susal Todai. Today, we are receiving a new prisoner. Unknown race, unknown name, unknown language. The only information we have on him is the fact that he's 1.63 mesel, 5 foot 4 feet, or 163 centimeters, 10 limes, 145 pounds or 67 kilograms, and cannot be detained by ordinary methods. Additionally, he has no functional eyes due to a deep acid burn scar from the top of his scalp to the midsection of his face. In spite of his diminutive stature, the strength he wields is one bordering on illegal genetic modification. There have been no proper estimations of the extent of this man's raw strength, only observations and first-hand accounts. Therefore, take heed of the following lessons learned and exaggerate his capabilities if you value your life. This initial report shall be a drop of water in the growing list of charges and crimes he owns. Our subject was first discovered on Rytha within the capital city Lennis, where social unrest was transformed into a city-wide riot. Among all the reports around the capital city, one came from a group of rioters who had informed the dispatcher that they were being wiped out by an unknown alien. Once officers arrived at the strange call, they discovered our unnamed, unarmed suspect had single-handedly crushed a rioting group of 34 individuals. When there was an attempt to apprehend him, the two responding officers were given such a brutal beating that they went comatose. Soon afterwards, a distress call was placed upon the blind individual, and he was besieged by a group of 15 riot officers. Even when he endured getting tased, gassed, shot with foam and rubber rounds, then run over by a transport vehicle, he managed to break the engine and almost overpowered all 15 officers. When the downed rioters were taken to the hospital, the doctors thought they had gotten into a massive traffic accident due to the severity of their injuries. Of the 34 rioters, 21 passed away from their injuries, and the others became permanently disabled in various fashions, all of which involved their joints. From the riot officers, their gear was severely damaged, with one officer having his arm crushed by the subject's grip strength alone. One died from a brain hemorrhage caused by a strike against his skull. One retired after being lifted up and slammed against the ground, causing a spinal fracture. Other officers were treated for concussions, broken fingers, and broken ribs, to say the least. He was detained inside the transport and wrapped around with specialized arm and leg cuffs, as well as a binding jacket that was chained to the interior. According to the two French officers guarding him at the time, the monster flexed so vigorously that he broke his jacket and would have broken through his cuffs if the two officers didn't gas him into unconsciousness. Due to the public unrest and how the law worked in Rytha at the time, our prisoner never received proper due process, and he was immediately transported to Riverside High-Security State Prison. He was given 22 life sentences for each rioter killed, and the dead officer, an additional 20 cycles for every mutilation and disability he inflicted, a total of 440 cycles of prison time. There is also damage to private property and resisting arrest, each adding an additional cycle. The fact he is an undocumented illegal alien on Rytha soil added an additional 10 cycles to his sentence. He did not receive the death penalty due to the fact that Rytha justice system did not have one, but it was considered being reinstated just for him. During his sentence at Riverside, he received multiple correctional reports for a multitude of charges. Due to a lack of communication, the correctional officers were never informed the subject was incapable of comprehending the standardized translation system. Thus, they had always assumed he willfully ignored commands and had to build a specific setup for compliance. A chamber was strapped to his head that injected a nerve agent. though they had the antidotes on hand. The COs commonly activated the nerve agent when the man was following orders. Sometimes they activated nerve gas in the middle of the night, devastating his sleep cycle. For weeks at a time, they allowed the prisoner to simmer in their own urine, fecal matter, and vomit, without letting him out for the typical recess period. In addition to that, during the one time that he was released for recess, another prisoner tried to fight him for smelling dreadful. What started as a single prisoner having his chest cavity caved into itself turned into a full riot within mere moments. Just as swiftly as with its beginning, it ended when our prisoner managed to break his head chamber and release the nerve agent across the entire yard. On that day, an investigation was launched on how 21 prisoners died from nerve gas, while the one at the center remained the only survivor. When the Riverside prison's chain of command was temporarily replaced with stand-ins to more effectively handle the situation, the unnamed alien was plunged into solitary confinement. After the investigation was accomplished, the actions of the correctional officers had done as well as the chain of command were hidden, and the deaths of all 21 prisoners were pinned on the prisoner we are receiving now. He is now serving an additional 21 life sentences and is under heavy surveillance until he reaches the confines of our prison. As of this report, the prisoner has been treated for bacterial infection in his bloodstream, has not received physical therapy, and continues to suffer from insomnia, seizures, and muscle twitches from excessive exposure to the nerve gas. Neurological damages could not be measured. End of report. Inside of a spacious, well-organized office with cultural artifacts from across the galaxy, an unusual-looking alien was reading over documents dropped off by his deputy. Said documentation contained a picture of an unnamed prisoner. The alien could only be described as an eldritch compilation of flesh and plant life given humanoid form. From reading the excerpts, his body shuddered in rage. "Fools, the lot of you!" His voice crawled across the foundation of his office. He slammed the documents against his desk and slowly began to transform his shape. "This happens time and time again." He went into a hidden locker behind a painting of a specific battlefield on a desert planet. His abominable appearance slowly turned coherent into that of an albino human. Within the locker were artifacts of that war. Preserved from decades past was a picture of himself in his damaged, horrid form being supported by a diminutive albino human with a shit-eating grin. In spite of bleeding out himself, the human still had the gall and energy to smile in the face of hell. Below that was a makeshift dog tag that read, "Vasco Crido, the albino devil." Hung in pristine shape was that human's translator, which Alsie donned. He returned to his desk and began calling up contacts. On the day of arrival, a squad of guards were escorting a solid metal coffin containing the nameless prisoner. Immediately awaiting their arrival were the 4 top personnel in charge of the Supermax prison. That included Alsie, who was in fully concealed armored garment. The head guard approached Alsie and saluted him, but the warden did not return the gesture. "Open the coffin," he growled, and the head of guard flinched and stared in confusion. The rest of the guards did the same thing, while Alsie's chain of command chuckled at the reaction. The deputy warden, Bracker, was a crustacean-like alien, clicked. "Recommend doing that, Cecil," a slender reptilian-like alien nodded. "Trust us. You are not winning against that order." Syringa, a stocky avian-like alien, held up a plasma torch. "I'll do it me own self, because you're all too slow." The guards were still dumbfounded until Alsie dropped his headwear and revealed his human appearance. "Break the restraints, or I'm shoving all of you back from whence you came in that coffin." The warden's appearance flabbergasted the group of guards who, rather than argue about proper procedure, began to fearfully break the coffin open, with the other 3 wardens assisting in cracking it. Leaving the head guard and Alsie alone, the shapeshifter stared down at the alien and asked, "In the reports, I was never properly informed about how long the human remained in captivity. There are too many details missing, inconsistencies. For instance, I heard about a mass of prisoners in Riverside dying 10 cycles ago, but not recently. You would not happen to know what that is, guard?" The guard took a sharp intake of breath. He was in prison for... He was in prison for a total of 30 cycles, 10 in solitary confinement. Alsie raised a shaking open hand, causing the guard to brace himself. When nothing came, he cleared his throat and saw a blank expression on the shapeshifter's face, with a hand clenched hard and slowly lowering to his side. That's all I need to know. Afterwards, the coffin was broken open and all the guards nimbly retreated and prepared for a fight of their lives while the three wardens helped the stumbling human out of his predicament. Alsie approached the human as the three officers set him down and allowed him room to breathe. The warden crouched down and spoke. Portuguese. Friend, what is your name? The human was on all fours and coughing profusely with staggering breathing. English. You are safe with me. The human, in the midst of coughing blood, paused. He raised a head to face Alsie, but didn't say a word. French. I know your brethren. I will protect you. The human moved his mouth, but no words were coming out. He switched his position to his knees, and he feebly reached out, removing his right glove. Alsie firmly grasped the human's hand. In a moment of respite, the battered human's entire body froze, but not from a seizure. For the first time in 30 cycles, he spoke. Polish. Are you? Alsie nodded, feeling the man's body tremble to its core. Polish. Yes, I'm a human. Before he could finish, Alsie was hugged by the human. He wailed loudly and broke down in front of all the dumbfounded guards and stalwart wardens. In the 30 cycles he had endured, all of it came crashing down and finally reached an unshakable wall of nameless prisoner. Polish. What is your name? His contorted, sniveling state of elation. The human spoke. The man swallowed and kept sniffling between his invisible tears. Alsie hugged the man back, still awaiting his answer. Dadel Hyla. In a calm, lowered voice, Alsie avowed. Dadel Hyla. On my title and my name, I am bringing you back home to Earth. This caused Dazel to weep even further beyond. Allowing the man to release his baggage, the warden announced, Sringa, you have the watch. The avian cursed under his breath. Then the head guard stepped forward. Wait, you can't. One of the other guards grabbed him by the shoulder and shook his head rapidly. I am a dominion unto myself, Alsie announced, causing everyone, even his wardens, to pause. The land beneath my feet is all the territory of Galaho. My will is the will of the Emperor, and my kinship born into an abyss diver, one who felled the devourer of the sky, one who lay dormant the devourer of the fog. He who burned and reborn from the flesh of a slaughtered god. Cursed to tread everlasting until time ceases, under oath and law of the seals that bind the ones beyond, on the soil of Glyho territory, and the rights of blood that damn us eternal, this birthright of human Dadel Hyla is free. The guards, as his witness, stood stock still. Even the sky held her wind, in the absolute authority of the warden. Without a single word, they took what remained of Dadel's cage and left. The wardens approached the two and wordlessly took them into the Ogridas Supermax prison. 1834, Police, Poland. Today marked the 36th anniversary of the disappearance of Dadel Hyla, beloved circus strongman, undefeated wrestler, and the strongest father in the world. In spite of his disability and his size, this mighty mouse of a man carved his feats of strength into the minds of people all over Europe, from Portugal all the way to Russia. Today marked the day that two men were seen walking the streets of Police. The younger folk paid no heed to the blind man being assisted, but they took notice of the strange albino one. The older one, however, could not believe their eyes. Today, from the depths of their minds, when they thought a ghost had raised itself from the great beyond, no fear took its place, as the town roared in celebration. Today, their hero returned. Today, my lost father returned. He brought a guest to the house. He was God in the house. End of story. I would like to thank our T5 members and patrons, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Vidmori, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.